Welcome everyone to my first ever YouTube video and also a little bit of an introduction video. I want to give you a little bit of background of me and what you can expect on this channel in the future. I'm 31 years old and I live in Stockholm. I work here as a designer and also have a little family with a girlfriend and a 4-year-old son. In my free time, I'm really into endurance sports, especially cycling, which is also a lot what the content on this channel will be about. I'm a type 1 diabetic and I've basically had it my whole life. I think I got it when I was 5 or 6 years old, so I don't really know a life without it. And I want to document my journey a little bit in endurance sports, especially cycling, but also other activities I'm doing. I think there's very little content out there and I get a lot of questions usually both from people with diabetes but also from people without diabetes. It could be really valuable to share my journey and also try to connect with other people. Yeah, even though I have diabetes my whole life, I still struggle with it when it comes to races and competition. During training rides and also normal everyday life, I don't really have trouble managing my blood sugar. But yeah, in the competitions, it gets really tricky to balance nutrition and diabetes. So I hope to share my journey a little bit. I know from experience now racing a bit and so on that there's quite a lot of people with type 1 diabetes out there. And it's pretty cool to see how they maybe manage their blood sugar and connect with them. I have a background in photography and videography, as well as my girlfriend's also working in that field. We love to document our lives and especially other people's lives. In my previous jobs, I think it was time to maybe give a crack and try to document the journey myself. I think it would be really nice to look back at the videos in a few years, and then also especially with my son growing up, if he can look back and see what his dad has done, I think that could be really cool. And my background in cycling is actually pretty basic. I had bikes my whole life, but mostly as pure means of transportation. I mostly used the bike to commute to school or to football practice, which I did almost my entire youth. I always had a mountain bike and we would go to the local forest and the local trails to do a bit of mountain biking there, but never as a exercise or endurance sport in a more serious way. Football played a really big part in my life, and I would say I played on a pretty decent level for quite a long time. But the older you got, especially when you hit the teenage years, a lot of people in the team lost interest for football or didn't take it so serious anymore. And I'm quite a competitive guy, and then it kind of faded away. Also, when I graduated, I moved to a different city and started my career in photography. And I worked for an event organizer, which meant I had to travel quite a lot. It was really hard to commit to any kind of team activity, but in general, picking up sports on the side was not really a thing. So basically the next 10 years or so, I didn't really do anything beside a few gym sessions here and there, but otherwise I mostly was not doing anything at all. And I also showed in my weight progress. I gained quite a lot of weight over the years with all the work and catering food and so on. So then after a while, I think the max I ever managed to hit was like right before Corona started in 2019, end of 2019. I probably was easily 115, 120 kilos. All the traveling and bad food, bad catering resulted in me also having to take medication for my high blood pressure. Blood samples that usually came back, which you always take every 3 months or so as a diabetic, always showed really bad liver results. So that's something that the doctors always pointed out, but nothing I took too serious at that time. The whole background on how I got into road cycling was basically I moved here to Stockholm, saw all the nice trails and was thinking about maybe getting a mountain bike again. Back then I decided to go for an electric mountain bike because I was lazy and I also thought I could use it to commute to work. But it was actually a really good start because I quickly lost quite some weight, even though it was just an electric bike, but just a little bit of extra movement helped quite a bit. I got recommended some YouTube videos, I don't quite remember from who, but basically road bike, vlogs and so on. And I got quite inspired and was like, I should maybe try that. So a few weeks later, I bought my first road bike, which was a Canyon Endurace with a Shimano 105 group set, pretty basic, but yeah, I took my first rides and instantly loved it and fell in love with the sport. At that point, it's pretty much the same for everyone when they fall in love with the sport like that. You just start doing it more, ride longer and so on, so you automatically get stronger. My starting FTP there by the end of 2020 was something around 200 watts. 2021 came around the corner and I wanted to take it even more serious. Back then my absolute dream bike was the Tarmac SL7, but quite out of my budget, or at least how much I wanted to spend, but then yeah, I just decided to go for it. The big part, I think, why I even went more into the sport was just the community here in Stockholm and all the friends I made. Simply because of that, you went on more rides and got even stronger and so on. Just by riding more, my FTP went to about 280. And then when winter came around, I started to do some Swift racing there and compete in like the Tour de Swift and those races, and got like really hooked on even just racing virtually and seeing how I hold up to some other guys. Yeah, that was quite motivating. By May 2022, my FTP reached about 310 thanks to some Swift workouts. I also tried other platforms like Trainer Road for some interval trainings. I decided then to join the first harder group rides here in Stockholm. We have quite a few that start at 6 a.m. in the morning, so I rolled out there, and I think the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks I got dropped every single time. Yeah, but each time I managed to hang on for a little bit longer. So that was kind of frustrating, but also motivating at the same time. Thanks to those group rides, I met some of the Angry Cycling Club members, which is also my current club. They have Sunday rides, which are pretty hard and competitive, so I started to join some of those, and I really liked that kind of riding and racing. I joined the club and learned a bit about the racing scene in Sweden, both gravel and road, and it really was something I maybe wanted to try in 2023. By the end of 2022, I was about 100 kilos, I would say, so I lost about 20 kilos maybe since I started cycling more serious. But I noticed, especially on the small kickers and so on, that my weight was still holding me back, or my power, or ideally both. So it was something I really wanted to improve on. So in winter from 2022 to 2023, it's something I really started to work on, started to track calories and work out more consistently, so I can lose some weight, but ideally also gain some power. And it was something that was really successful, I would say. I gained about 30 watts on top on my FTP after the winter, and I went down to like 89 kilograms. The club had quite a few international members and also all around my age, which was really nice, and they were all really strong guys. So right before the 2023 session started, some of the club members suggested that we should start racing in Sweden, and it's all something we've been looking into for quite a while. We took the decision to form a team and be on the start line of the races. I was personally quite hesitant, so actually my first races I did in the B category because I didn't really feel comfortable yet to start in A. I wanted to see first how I hold up. Right when summer was around the corner, I decided to join some of the harder elite races. Thanks to some really experienced guys on the team, we had quite some success in the first year already. And I also personally managed to finish on the podium in the last crit race of the season, which was a pretty nice confirmation that my progress was going quite well. So my highest FTP by end of 2023 season was around 374, while also holding my weight. So it's done a pretty well progress there, and also slowly got into the range where I can be competitive with the stronger elite guys. My big dream is really to hit the 5 watts per kilo. So when 2024 came around the corner and the winter season was still on, I decided to try to drop down to under 80 kilos while also raising my FTP, hopefully a bit more. This went overall quite well. I think my FTP hit around 380 watts, while also at the same time I dropped down to like 83 kilos. So I was on a good track right before the season started. We went onto a training camp in Mallorca, and then also it was the Easter break right after, so I was gone for about 3 weeks. So when I came back from that training block, I actually managed to somehow gain 7 to 8 kilos, which I don't really understand how, but yeah, it was a bit disappointing. At that point, my 2024 season, which was starting, was quite packed because I wanted to do as many races as possible and gain as much experience as possible. So I signed up for all road races, all cross-country races, and all gravel races I could do, which basically meant racing 1 to 2 times per week. And I really wanted to focus on fueling properly and recovering properly. So I didn't really wanted to try and lose any more weight at that point. So in total, across the 2024 season, until we reached Gravel World Championship in October, I managed to gain over 10 kilos, which was pretty disappointing, but at the same time, I also managed to gain quite a lot more power thanks to all the racing. Right before Gravel World Championship, I hit my highest FTP ever with 410 watts, which was something I was really proud of to cross that 400 mark. Overall, I managed to get 3 podiums, with one of them being a win. So that was even more motivating me to do even better for 2025. During all that time, managing my blood sugar has been actually relatively easy when it comes to normal training rides, because you can always stop and inject. When I started to race in 2023, I really struggled with my blood sugar in the beginning. There were a lot of things I didn't really understand, and there's not a lot of material out there that really helps you to understand, like when you start racing and you have a hard start in a race, that the adrenaline and the glucose getting released from your liver will actually result in you spiking quite high in blood sugar. But when you have a race where the first hour is maybe relatively easy, it can be quite opposite. I made my fails, and I even had races where I had to stop and inject, which meant I lost the group and couldn't continue really anymore and just had to ride by myself into the finish line. But that gave me the experience I have now. And while I'm not an expert yet, I hope that I can share some tips and tricks on how I do it during my races. One of the things I want to figure out this year especially is my fueling strategy, because consuming the 90 to 110 grams of carbs per hour is not really an option for me, because my blood sugar would spike way too much. But on the other hand, I also don't really want to underfuel in my races. When it comes to goals, they are pretty much set already for this year. I have my full race calendar and I'm really excited of what's to come. I definitely finally want to hit the 5 watts per kilo, which was already my goal last year, but I really want to do it now before the season starts. Even though it's just a number, I think it will be a good psychological help. When it comes to road racing, I really do well in the big road races. We don't have so many here in Sweden, but one of them being a UCI race, so I really want to be there at the start line and do well. When it comes to gravel racing, the goal is pretty clear: qualify for the World Championship again. I already signed up for 4 UCI World Series races this year, mostly during the summer. And I hope I can qualify as early as possible in the age group, and then also try to qualify in the elite category. Other than that, also later this year I will have my first ultra distance race, which I'm really excited about, and especially when it comes to managing my blood sugar there, to make that experience will be quite interesting. When it comes to content, my goal is definitely to document all those different races and all those different journeys, as well as my training leading up to those races. We have a big team training camp coming up in Mallorca in March, and I will take you along on this journey and also show you how I manage my blood sugar during the training and during the races and so on, and hopefully can connect with a few more people. Because I've done a few races now where I saw other people using, for example, a sensor, it would be really nice to connect with more people and talk about their experiences and learn more, and become better at racing bikes because of that. I also really appreciate to get as much feedback and as much input on all the content I create, because it will help me a lot to just see what I can do better. I don't really know exactly where the journey will lead me to and how I will manage everything and how it will look, but I guess we will see it in 1 year, and then hopefully it's something I will be proud of. If you don't want to miss any of the videos I'm posting, of course feel free to subscribe, and otherwise just leave me a comment with maybe what type of content you want to see in the future, so I can take it into consideration. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Bye.